Hello students, today we will continue the same chapter, chapter 2, Geography, class 12, the world population, distribution and density. Now, today we will take 3 topics like population growth, components of population change and migration, and we will discuss it one by one. Let us discuss the first one, population growth. What is that population growth? I must have discussed with you the population growth in my previous videos, but let us once again discuss about it. What is that population growth? The population growth or population change refers to the change in the number of inhabitants of a territory during a specific period of time. This is what the population growth, and in other words, if we define it, we can say that it's the change in the number of people living in a particular area over a specified period of time. You can say about 10 years, and it is expressed in 2 ways, absolute numbers or in percentages. Clear? So, we can discuss these two in detail. What about this absolute numbers in percentage and the absolute increase? So, let me tell you once again, growth of population refers in this way also we can discuss that growth of population change refers to the number of inhabitants of a country, or growth of population refers to the change in the number of inhabitants of a country or territory during a specific period, and just now I told you that you can take 10 years. Why 10 years? Because the census takes place after every 10 years. So, as far as these two terms are concerned, absolute and the absolute increase and absolute numbers, let me tell you about the first one. The absolute numbers added each year or a decade is the magnitude of increase. Absolute numbers added each year or a decade is the magnitude of increase. It is obtained by simply subtracting the earlier population. For example, if you take the population of 1991 from the later population of 2001, or if you take the total population of 2001, the base population, and then 2011 population, you simply have to subtract the population. Then this will give you the absolute increase. Once again I am telling you, the absolute numbers excuse me, the absolute numbers added each year in 1 year, suppose 100, then 2 years again 100, then 3 years 300, 4 years, then 4th year 400, 5th year 600. I mean, this will go on adding. I mean, we'll have to add all these at the end. I mean, the last year, that will be of 10th or census year, we will simply have to add all this population. That will give you the total population of that particular year. And then if we take, how will we calculate this absolute numbers? Simply previous, we will have to take the total population of the previous census and will subtract with the current one. So, that will take you, that will give you the absolute numbers. Now, the second one is the rate or the pace of population increase is the other important aspect, okay, and it is studied in percent per annum. Now, I told you that it is it can be expressed, I mean, this population growth can be expressed in 2 ways, absolute numbers and in terms of percentage change per year. Now, let us discuss. The rate or the pace of population increase is the other important aspect. It is studied in percent per annum. For example, a rate of increase of 2% per annum means that in a given year there was an increase of 2 persons for every 100 persons in the base population. And now 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4th year like this, and 10th year if the increase will be 2, 4, 6 or 8, 10, then that will give you, or suppose that in 10 years 2 persons or have increased. So in the last year or the last year, which last year, 10th census year, you will have how many persons? I mean 20 persons. So there will be the increase of 20 persons. For then 100, we have taken 2 persons in 100. Okay, 2% for every 100 persons. There was an increase of 2 persons for every 100 persons. Okay, so 100, 100, 100, we'll have to take it. So 100 into 100, right? 1000. So we'll take what? 20 persons have increased in, for 1000 persons. Okay, and 1000, I mean that will be the base population. So this is referred as the annual growth rate. Now another important feature is given, that according to UN's population statistics, the world population grew by 30% or 1.6 billion between 1990 and 2010. For example, if we deduct the population of India of 1991 from the population of 2001, simply then the growth of population in actual numbers will be 18.07 crore. And then you may ask me how this 18.07 crore has come. Yes, 1991, 84.63 crores the population, and we'll have to, what will we do? We'll have to simply deduct the population of India from 1991 census, and that was 84.63, from the population of 2001, that was about 102.70 crore. Then the growth of population in actual numbers will be 18.07 crore. So that was about the population growth. So it is expressed in 2 ways. Which 2 ways? Absolute numbers and in terms of percentage change per year. Now there are some basic concepts of population geography which we will discuss here. The first one is given, the growth of population. The growth of population here means what? That the change of population that takes place, change of population in a particular year between 2 points. Between 2 points, which one? Either 2001 census or 2011 census, between 2 points, and this is called what? Growth of population. Change of population, right, whether increased or decreased, or size of population, and the different components of population are taken. So in particular year between 2 points, that is called what? The growth of population. The second one is your growth rate of population. What is this growth rate of population? Growth rate of population is simply, this is the change of population expressed in percentage, as just now I have explained you. Then comes the natural growth rate. The natural growth rate is the difference between the birth rate and death rate. Okay. So what is that? Between the birth rate and death rate. The natural growth, death rate and birth rate. Keep these 2 terms in your mind, that this is the population increased by the difference between births and deaths in a particular region between 2 points of time, okay, natural growth of population. Then comes your what? Natural growth, births minus death or births minus death. Then the actual growth of population. What is that actual growth of population? When migration Migration, when migration along with the birth rate and death rate is taken into account, it is called actual growth rate. Clear? And if the population decreases under the influence of all the three factors, it is called what? Actual rate of decrease of population. Which are, you may ask me, which three factors? Birth rate, death rate and migration. Okay. So, this is what? That the actual birth growth rate. Then comes the positive and the negative growth of population. The positive growth of population, this is births minus death plus in migration minus out migration. That was about, just now I told you about this, that was your actual growth of population. Now, what about this? The next one is your positive growth of population. This happens when the birth rate is more than the death between 2 points of time. This happens when the birth rate is more than the death between 2 points of time. Do you think, children, that when the birth rate is more, in which phase of population? We have read about 4 phases of population when we did the first chapter from India, People and Economy. So, positive growth of population when the birth rate is more than the death rate between 2 points of time. And negative growth of population, what is that? If the population decreases between 2 points of time is the negative growth of population. So, in one, the population increases, population or the birth rate increases, and the second one, negative growth when the population decreases between 2 points of time. Between 2 points of time, again reminding you, between one census and the second census. Okay. So, once again let me make the things clear to you that what is that growth of population. Growth of population means change of population in particular area between 2 points. This is your growth of population. The second one is the growth rate of population. The rate, the word is rate, at what rate the population grew or at what rate the population decreased. This is what? This is the change of population expressed in growth rate of population is expressed in percentage. And natural growth of population, this is the population increased by difference between births and deaths in a particular region between 2 points of time. Okay, natural growth, population increased by difference between birth and deaths in a particular region. Then the natural growth, births minus death, natural growth. The natural growth rate is the difference minus, here means what? That the natural growth rate is the difference between the birth rate and death rate. Then comes your actual growth rate. What is that actual growth rate? This is births minus deaths plus in migration minus out migration. Here I can tell you in this way that when migration, immigration and emigration, okay, immigration and emigration along with the birth rate and death rate is taken into account is called actual growth rate, is called actual growth rate. Then comes your immigration. To whom would you call immigrant or immigrant? An immigrant. Immigrant, that a person who come into a foreign country to live there permanently. Immigrant, a person who come into a foreign country to live there permanently, right? And the immigrant, a person who has gone to live in another country. So, here what is that? Immigration and immigration both are taken together. So, that when migration along with the birth rate and death rate is taken into account, it is called actual growth rate. Then comes your positive and negative. So, positive when the population or when the birth rate is more than the death rate, and negative when the population decreases between 2 points of time as negative growth of population. Okay. Now comes the components of population change. What are the different components of population change, right? What are the different components that we'll have to discuss about? There are three most important components of population change are birth rate, death rate and migration. Now, what is that birth rate? You all know about it. But there is a word called CBR, crude birth rate. What is that crude birth rate? Crude birth rate is calculated. How would you calculate? What is the way? What is the method to calculate this CBR? I mean crude birth rate. Crude birth rate is birth rate or the total number of births or number of live children born in a year divided by total population in the middle of the year into 1000. Okay, this is what that the crude birth rate. Again telling you by giving you one example. Crude birth rate, how will you calculate? Crude birth rate will be calculated by, or in this way, number of live children born in a year by total population in the middle of the year into 1000. Suppose, now one example giving you, suppose the population of a small country is 2 million, okay, and the live births in this country in a year were 40,000. Then the crude birth rate of this country will be 40,000 by what? 2 million into 1000, and that will, if you calculate, it will give you 20 per thousand. So, crude birth rate would be your 20 per thousand, and the birth rate is always expressed in per thousand. Okay, crude birth rate, right? And then there is one word, look at this, CBR. C stands for crude, or CBR stands for crude birth rate. Birth, B stands for live births, and then live births, and P estimated mid-year population. Then you may ask me, what is this mid-year population? It is in fact half of the changes that take place in the population during the year. Okay, in 1 year, suppose that the half of the changes what type of birth rate, death rate, and then the other components, the migration, out migration, in migration, I mean all these when takes place during the year, that is your mid-year population, and this is the population estimate, or you can say that it is generally used as the base for calculation of the rate. Right, this is used generally for calculation or for calculating the rates, and also referred as the mean population, right? And the population is regarded as, I mean then the population is regarded as July, I mean till July, half of the year July. So, the first July, I mean January to June, and the 1st July, then on 1st July you can if you look at the changes, and if you observe the changes that have taken place in half of the year, then that would give you the mid-year population. Now comes your crude death rate. What is that crude death rate? Crude death rate, number of, again the number of deaths per 1000 population in a year is in a given geographical unit or area is called what? Death rate, number of deaths per 1000. You can understand in very simple language that the number of deaths per 1000 population in a year. So, what is the formula? How will you find out this death rate? Crude death rate is equal to number of deaths by total population in the mid of that year or in the middle of that year into 1000. Right, the same method would be same, only number of deaths or number of live births would be your change, right? Now you may ask me again one question, that why crude birth and why crude death? Why will we use this word crude, right? The birth rate is described as crude because at the time of census, persons who directly do not give birth, like children or aged persons, are also included. Clear? Again telling you that the birth rate is described as crude because at the time of census, persons who directly do not give birth, like children or aged persons, are also included. So, for better accuracy, age specific birth rate or standardized birth rates are calculated, right? And for calculating the crude death rate, no consideration is given to age. No consideration, will not give any consideration to age, that the people have died at which year, I mean at what was the age of that person, like this, that no consideration is given to age and gender. No age and gender would be the parameters, okay. So, no consideration is given to age and gender parameters at the time of census as far as the death rate is concerned. So, to remove this defect, age specific death, infant mortality rates and standardized death rates are calculated, okay. So, this is the same thing I have just now explained you here as written CDR. CDR, what is that? CDR is your crude death rate, okay, and the D stands for number of deaths in a year, and P stands for estimated mid-year population for the year. And let me again tell you what is that mid-year population. Mid-year population is calculated as half of the change of the population that takes place in during the year, okay, half of the change in the population that takes place during a year, okay. Now let me discuss with you the migration. Migration is the third major determinant of population change, because I have discussed with you, or in the beginning I told you that today we will discuss the three important topics like population change, population growth, and then the death rate, birth rate, population growth, and then your migration, okay, or the population growth and then the components of population change, and then the migration. Now, let us discuss about the third major determinant of population change, that is your migration. Movement of the people from one place to another, will it be the migration? No, 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 it will not be the migration. But migration, I will discuss with you what is migration, the different types of migration later on. So, in simple words, you can define it as the movement of the people either permanently, seasonally, or that temporarily that takes place. Well, let us discuss about the classification, or the migration can be categorized as internal and international, internal or external, right? Internal here means are the international migration, right? In two ways it takes place, and it involves the movement of the people from one place, just now I told you, one place to another, whether seasonally, permanently, or that seasonally, permanently, or temporarily. Now, migration, out migration, with the help of this mind map, you can see that out migration, moving out, and in migration, the people are coming to a place or a new place. Well, so this is that was about your migration, but let me discuss with you some other terms here, that population explosion. What is that population explosion? This is the relative term, that's why I thought that I'll discuss with you. Population explosion, what is that in fact? The birth being excessively more than death rate causes population to increase rapidly, okay, and the rapid increase in population is known as population explosion. So do you think, children, that this population explosion, that India has reached to this population explosion time? Do you think that population explosion, or India has reached, or the population explosion has taken place in our country? So what is that? Let me tell you. The birth being excessively more than death, okay, and that causes the population to increase rapidly. Remember when we discussed about different phases, in which phase, do you remember, in which phase the population explosion had taken place? Well, you should, and you will write it in your notebook. Now, the place of origin and place of destination. There are two other terms, the place of origin and the place of destination. What is that place of origin? The place of origin. When people move from one place to another, the place they move from is called the place of origin, and place of destination, the place they move to, is called the place of destination. For example, if I give you one example, that a woman has moved from US to Australia for permanently. I mean, she will spend rest of her time, or I mean the lifetime, in Australia. So place, I mean, she was born in US and migrated where? To Australia, right? So people move from one place to another, and they move, the place they move from is called the place of origin, the place of origin, right? And the place of destination, the place where they have reached, or the place where they have started working, or they move to, the place they move to, and the place from where they move. The place from there they move is the place of origin, and the place of destination where they reach, the place they move to, is called the place of destination. So two things are here, place of origin and the place of destination, okay. So three terms we have just now discussed about, that the population explosion, place of sorry, and place of destination. Now there is a question that 22% of migrants to Mumbai are kids, and this is the question from NCERT book, that 22% of migrants to Mumbai are kids. Why? Yes, it's only because sometimes what happens, that either they are the school dropouts, or the poor families, they send their kids, or they send their children for earning, and they work as a domestic helper, or they are indulged in, or sometimes they are indulged in begging and some other work, and they mainly go missing from slums and are kept just like or are kept in bonded like situation. Okay, 22% of migrants to Mumbai are kids. The only reason, I would tell you the reason is that either they come from very poor family, or sometimes the poor families, they send their kids for earning, or they go on missing from slums and they work in hotels, in dhabas, or as a domestic helper, okay, and then they started earning, and they send the money to their parents. Well, then comes migration again. Let me continue that migration topic. Migration may be permanent, temporary, or seasonal, as just now I have discussed with you. A person can be both immigrant and an emigrant. Okay, a person can be both immigrant and an emigrant. How? Immigrant, a person who come into a foreign country to live. A person who come into a foreign country to leave there permanently is called immigrant. And immigrant, a person who has gone to live in another country. Okay, a person who has gone to live in another country, that he or she would be immigrant, right? So the word, in fact, migrant, now this is a very common word, that the word migrant is a new trend in news reporting. In fact immigrant and migrant are the same. Okay, immigrant and migrant are same. So who is a immigrant? A person who come into a foreign country to live there permanently, right? And immigrant, a person who has gone to live in another country. Well, now can you think of reasons why people migrate? Yeah, we can discuss these things, that why the people migrate. There are two sets of factors that influence migration: push and pull factors. Okay, push factors are those that encourage a population to leave its home, and pull factors are those that draw a population to another area or place. I mean, in one case, push factors are those that encourage population to leave. Okay, forcefully the people leave their place of origin, right? And pull factors are those that draws a population to another areas. I mean, that they attracts, the factors attract the people to come over. So push factor is a geographical term and is used to describe any kind of influencing factor that motivates a person to leave one's country. And push factors are here just now in table. I have shown you the poverty, political instability, environmental problems, hunger, war, terrorism, economic difficulties, population pressure. All these are the push factors due to which that the people leave their place of origin. And then the pull factors, that these factors attract the people, like opportunities, higher earnings, stability, employment opportunities, better facilities and political freedom. So at last, once again, let us recapitulate the topics which we have discussed today, that the population growth, components of population, migration. Okay, we have discussed these three today, and like population growth, components and migration, the types of migration, and why do the people migrate, place of origin, place of destination, immigrant and immigrant. These things, I mean, these topics we have discussed. Now there is one assignment which you have to do it in your notebook, and these are the questions which are based on, the topic which we have done today. The topics like population growth, components of population change and migration, and you will do it in your notebook.